Welcome to another Tuesday evening, or if you're watching the recording, it's whatever day it is. I'm Terry McGill. This is the show, Who's Your Neighbor? This started when COVID hit, or rather right after it, and I became aware that we humans need inclusion, and we didn't have it. Well, actually, what really triggered this show was I read stories about people who were living with partners that weren't as supportive as we might want. And instead of going away from each other for maybe 10 hours a day, they were shut up with each other. And that was not a good thing. And so I realized that we need to be out, we need to be around others. And somebody said, well, why don't you introduce some of the people you know? And so after it took 3 months for this name to come to me, Who's Your Neighbor? But it's really perfect because this is about who is your neighbor, and they may not be across the street from you. They may not be across town. We've literally had people from all across the United States. However, tonight, our guest is someone who is right here in Portland, Oregon, and probably only about 20 minutes away from me. So our guest tonight is an author, but much more than that. And rather than just be a spoil sport, I'm going to ask Aylin to come to greet you, and we'll just chat. Hello? Our engineer has either...
There we are.
There we go.
There we are.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's just a pleasure to have you. So, Aylin, and your last name is Halverson?
Yes.
And since there's, I forget what nationalities, but some spell the S-O-N and some spell S-E-N, but you're an S-O-N.
I'm an S-O-N, son of Halver. Yeah.
Yeah. And since I already said you're an author, is this your first book?
It is my very first book, and I'm in my 60s. So
Well,
never
congratulations.
Never give up. Do what you want to do.
I know people who die without writing a book.
I never thought I would write a book. It was not even in my vocabulary. It was like, I don't spell that great. I'm not great with punctuation. And I thought you had to be really good with all that stuff. But, when the time came, it was like, I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm just going to do it and see what happens.
So earlier, you have a copy of that book that you can show us, don't you?
Yeah. It's the Tarot Apothecary. Shifting personal energies using tarot, aromatherapy, and simple everyday rituals.
So how does tarot and apothecary go together?
Well, within the tarot, there are lots of archetypes. And I like to work with the archetypical energies of the cards. So I focus on the major arcana, which are 22 cards, and the four queens, because I feel the four queens are... they embody the element of they're a part of it. They own it. So working with an archetype and then calling in the plant kingdom in some way, either through scent, tea, spices, to remind you what your intention is. Because just to give you an idea, I like to work with the Queen of Wands a lot in my life, because
The Queen of whom?
Queen of Wands.
So for those of that are not familiar with tarot, it's W-A-N-D.
Yes. And she is fire element. So she's all about passion, desire, creativity, transformation, and change. She's also about leadership and charisma and sparking the fire within other people. And within my astrological chart, I lack fire. And I started realizing that those are some of the qualities I need in my life in order to do what I want to do, like leadership, charisma, um, the power to encourage others. And that's what the Queen of Wands is about. So I believe in embodying that element, that energy, that archetype, and then using scents or teas or stones, whatever your choice is, to remind you what your purpose, what your goal is. So working with a scent, like let's take the Queen of Wands, she's fire. So working with a fire scent, cinnamon, cardamom, nutmeg, any of ginger, anything like that. And working with it 3 times a day by what I mean is smelling it 3 times a day with an intention that you are courageous, you are a leader, you are, you do have charisma, you have that power within you. And each time you smell that, you're reinforcing that energy within yourself. So that's kind of what the book's about. It's about embodying an energy that you may require at this time in your life. And then working with ritual and scent or taste or sound to reinforce that energy continuously through your life. And in the book, I use simple everyday rituals. So easy things, not a big ritual that you have to spend an hour doing a day. It's like when you get your cup of tea in the morning, make a ritual out of it, or your cup of coffee. Feel the warmth of the cup. Feel it giving you love and encouragement and comfort. Say your prayers or your wishes into the cup and drink them in. A simple ritual that you can do every morning. And that helps you to remind yourself of your intention. And as you do that constantly, it starts to become a part of you. So it's a combination of tarot, scent, and ritual that are not difficult to do.
What I like about it is it's combining 2 things I never thought of combining before. And I'm all about manifesting, and it takes passion to do that. It also takes grounding and shifting one's center. And sounds like you've got a book full of how to do that.
Yeah, and it helps you to step outside your box a bit, because in order to create what you want in your life, action is required. I mean, you can sit and manifest it within your mind, but you've got to take action. You've got to show the universe that this is what I truly want, and I'm willing to do this or that, whatever it is. I'm willing to take action to move towards it. And I think that's really important. And
so you have rituals throughout the book.
I have recipes. I have like tea recipes, how to make your own blends of tea. I have potion recipes, as I call them. So essential oil blend you can make. I teach you how to blend in the book so you can learn to blend for yourself. And I also have what I call imaginative journey, which is sitting with your archetype and actually talking to them and letting your imagination go. What do they have to say to you? What's their message to you? Write it down, because it's really important. Later on, even if it doesn't make sense right now, later on, it's going to make sense to you.
That's going to really open up or reopen the child connection in one.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't have to be a tarot expert to work with the book. You don't have to be a tarot reader. I give you all the information you need in the book. You might want a deck, but you don't even have to have a deck. It's all about choosing the energy you want to call into your life embracing it, and then working with your senses in different ways. Possibly mantra. I have how to write a mantra in the book, so you can write your own mantras. As you smell this oil, you can say your mantra 3 times per day. And that reinforces it within yourself, but it also reinforces it with the universe and your guides and your
I was
angels.
feeling that as you were saying that. The sound vibrates. I read the Akashic records. Sound, the Akasha means vibration or frequency or sound, and it's everywhere all the time, ever was, always will be. That, and then the smell, and then the taste. Like, wow.
Yeah. It's like if you really want to call in that Queen of Wands, that fire energy, or some other fire cards. I go into the elements in the book too. So I'll go into the elements of which cards relate and which oils relate to those elements. And if you really want to work with an element, there's different oils, and there's different, let's say you want to work with earth elements. So maybe you want to use earthy vegetables like potatoes, make potato soup. If you want to work with the Queen of Wands, maybe you make a really spicy pot of chili with all that fire energy within there. And as you're cooking, you're putting your intentions into your cooking. So it's kind of like a prayer or a spell, whatever you want to call it. You're putting it with intention into whatever you're doing. You're cooking, you're drinking your tea, you're taking your shower, any type. You can make a ritual out of anything. So it's really fun, and I didn't want it to be difficult for people. One more thing I want to mention that's in the book that I base my whole life off of is tarot numerology. And I explain how to do that for yourself in the book so you can figure it out for yourself. But each person is one of the tarot cards, and it's based off your birth numerology. And then each year, this is the main part that's really powerful for me. Each year you move into a different tarot card. And so I map out 5 years in advance. I know the energies that are coming into my life, and I say, okay, this year is what I'm focusing on. And, life brings crazy things, and it may knock me off course a bit, but I know the energy that's coming in, and I know how I want to work with that energy, and I'm better prepared. And like when I wrote the book, it was my chariot year. And the chariot year, well, actually, it was my lover's year to start. I moved into my chariot year when I sent it off to publishing. And the chariot year is like, go for it. Don't let your emotions get in the way, your fears, your anxieties, whatever. You cannot let that get in the way. You have to have focused intention, and you need to drive towards that and go for it. So I was sending it off to publishers and seeing if anybody would publish it. And it was my intention. I'm getting this published this year. So I really base my life off of what tarot energy is coming into my life on my birthday. And I've watched that for the last 12 years, and it's amazing. It is so right on. And I used it to write the book. I knew what energies were coming in, and I asked the universe to help me, and everything opened up, and it just worked. So
I really like that concept of looking at what's coming, preparing yourself for it, because that resonates for me. In that, what I have found is what I focus is what I am interested in, and create in my life and remind myself of it. It begins to show up.
Right. Totally. Yeah, it's really powerful stuff. It's really exciting stuff. I mean, and just to give an example, it was in 2018. I moved into my death year in the tarot.
Your which year?
Death year. Because there's a death card in the tarot, but it's not about death. Well, it's about transformation and change, shedding your skin, becoming new, and cutting away the dead wood in your life that needs to go. And sometimes that year can be traumatic. I mean, people, like your boyfriend decides to move out, or you got into grad school and then all of a sudden something happens and the program's canceled, but then you realize, oh, those weren't things I really wanted in my life anymore. And my death year, so I went into it with, okay, I'm embracing death this year. I even got skeleton earrings. I wore a lot of black. I worked with flower essences that help you move through transition. And my death year was so peaceful. But by the end of my death year, I was a different person. I mean, before my death year, I wanted to be my favorite author, Mary K. Greer. I just wanted to be her so bad. She was my hero. I loved everything about her. At the end of my death year, I was like, no, I'm really happy to be me. I don't need to be anybody else. And I'm open to just being me from now on. And it was after that the book happened, when I let go of all that I want to be them. And I accepted me. So knowing ahead of time that, oh, this is like next year is my hermit year. So it's a year of more solitude, more seclusion, going within yourself, listening to your own voice. But it's also a 9 year. So it's about finishing things up. What needs to be finished up this year? So look at your life at what needs to be finished up, because the next year you're probably moving into the Wheel of Fortune, which is transformation and change again. It's change.
So if someone is looking for a way to understand their life, not just what's happening right now, what has happened, and what might be coming.
Yes.
It sounds like this is almost a manual with an apothecary built in.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have to tell you that once I found out who I was in the tarot, I read a book on it I found in a used bookstore. And once I read and figured out, did my numerology, I understood myself finally. And I was in my 40s and I'm like, wow, okay, this is great. I can be who I am. And it really helped me. So just and it tells you, your gifts in life and your challenges in life. And as you move into a different year and you see those challenges might be coming up, you're like, okay, how am I going to work with those? You get yourself prepared.
I needed to have that experience about 40 years ago.
Well, I wish I would have had it in my 20s, but
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah, it didn't work that way.
Actually, I'm a little bit older than that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just fascinated. I'm sitting here and I'm going, wow. So you can figure out with this numerology concept what you're going into. You've got essentially a manual. You've got different cards, and then you can prepare something to smell, make a sound, taste it. This is fascinating.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's fun, and it just has made me a more grounded person. And I trust myself more, knowing what's coming up, or what's really cool is I did my numerology backwards to the day I was born. And certain years I was like, oh, I remember what happened that year. That makes so much sense. Like the year my daughter was born, I was in my Empress year, and the Empress is about fertility and growth, and nurturing. And I was like, that is really wild that I was in my Empress year when she was born, So I went back and just mapped everything, and I went, oh my gosh, I see the patterns here, and I see, what happened that year and how this all fits in. So it was a really cool experiment to go backwards.
That's an interesting concept, because how many of us, consciously or not, have wondered about why did that happen back then? And this gives a way for perspective.
Right. And plus, you can take a look at the numerology. What's interesting is it doesn't go in order all the time. Sometimes I notice that my numbers jump back, and they tend to jump back to the same energy. And it's like, oh, I have more to learn here. I have more to do here. It seems like I jump back into the number 5 a lot, which is the Hierophant and the Tarot. And he's very much about education. And it seems like every time I move into a Hierophant year, I go back to school for something. It's been like every time. But now I'm not jumping back to the Hierophant year anymore. I'm moving up into another year when I jump back. And so I'm like, okay, maybe all my education is finished. And now I'm moving into, I keep jumping back to this next year. And so there's energy I need to work with in there. So it's really just, it's fascinating. It's all fascinating.
I'm fascinated. Yes. So you're going to be doing a live release of your book very soon, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be at New Renaissance Bookshop here in Portland. I love New Renaissance. It's kind of my home. I'm going to be there this Saturday, the 10th of December, and I'll be signing books between 2 and 4. So it's a book signing. I won't be speaking or anything, just doing a book signing. Of course, I'll be speaking to you as people as they come up, and yeah, so we'll be able to have conversations, which will be fun. But yeah, I'm really excited about it.
That's so exciting. Are you also releasing the book on the web or through?
Oh, you can get it anywhere. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can get it at Thrift Books, your local bookstore, Powell's if you're in Portland, New Renaissance if you're in Portland, anywhere. You should be able to get it. If your local bookstore doesn't have it, you just ask them to order it for you. But you can get it anywhere now.
So it's already available.
Yeah, it was released on the 8th of this month.
Okay.
So just
the 8th.
I'm sorry, the 8th of November.
I'm going, wait a minute. Today's the 6th.
The 8th of November it was released. So
I had a thought and it just flew away.
I have that happens to me all the time.
Oh, I know what it was. This is a personal thing with me. I would like everyone listening, watching, instead of ordering from something that's online, please check your local area for local bookstores. I'm really into supporting local businesses.
Totally.
And I just found out there's a really neat bookstore in Canby, which is, yeah. So you're local, so you've heard of Canby.
Yes.
It's not a large metropolitan area. It's out on the edge, out toward Estacada and Woodburn, kind of. But somebody said, well, Canby has a really neat little bookstore. You're kidding. In fact, my college roommate, and so this is a couple of years ago, he and his wife they bought a bookstore from an older couple that were retiring in Oregon City. And I have no idea if it's still there because that was like 40 years ago. But if it's not there, it's because the community didn't support it.
Yeah, that's too bad because I love bookstores. I have to have the book in my hand. I'm not one of those Kindle people. I actually, if you would see my wall, it's just nothing but a giant bookcase all the way across. And I love books, and my favorite place to hang out is a bookstore. So
I bought one of those Kindle reader things.
Yeah.
I think I read 10 pages. The next time I picked it up, the battery had died. It was about 4 years later. I want a book.
I want a book. I agree with you. Yep. That's just got to have it. And well, I like to pull them off the shelf for research or whatever. And I want to have the actual book. I don't want to have to look it up online. I don't want to have to pull it off Kindle or so. Yeah.
Yeah, I know people that read using their cell phone. They go,
Well, I can't.
and it's like, that's not real. You can't turn the page.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't bend the little corner.
Oh, I won't do that.
I don't do it anymore, but I used to do it when I was a kid. Yeah.
I use sticky notes. Yeah. I was at a workshop once, and someone had the author's book, one of the books, and the author said, "Well, show it to me." And the person was kind of hesitant, but they took it up on stage, and they must have had 20 post-it notes with little notes on, this is here and this is that and this is where you find this. And said, well, I apologize for this. No,
that's great.
That means you're using it.
Yes.
And you want to go back. It was a new. What it did was it undid some programming that I had of what's appropriate. And like you were referring to earlier, when we move through stuff, we can let it go, and then we can just be who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'll use a Kleenex, a clean one. I'll fold it and I'll put it in because I don't bend the corners anymore. Yeah. There's nothing else handy.
Well, I get as many bookmarks as I can from New Renaissance. So it's like, use the bookmarks now.
So for all of you that are watching, listening, or not, New Renaissance bookstore or bookshop, as some call it, it is the largest New Age store, and it's more than just books. They have over 10,000 items. I do readings there also. And I was talking to one of the staff somewhere around just after the first of the year, some years back, and they were doing inventory. And they'd been closed for 3 days doing inventory, and they were still finishing up. I said, geez, there must be 5,000 or 6,000 items here. They said, no, 10,000.
That bookstore has so much. When I'm doing readings in there, it's very difficult because I always have to buy something. I can't leave without buying something. And it's my favorite place. It's just my favorite place in the whole world. And I have a funny story to tell about that. The first time I went into New Renaissance, I had just got married to my husband. And we were in there, and there's this woman. She was just kind of staring at me and just really looking at me. And I'm thinking, why is that woman staring at me? Well, a few minutes later, she comes up. And my husband was spoiling me. I mean, we were just married. He's like, buy as many books as you want. We both had like 10 books. And, we were just having this shopping spree. And she finally came up to my husband. And we'd been dating for 5 years. And then we broke up for a year. And then we got back together and got married right away. And he had went on a date with her. 2 dates. And she was staring at him, not me. And he was so embarrassed because he was like, I couldn't remember her name. He goes, she brought me here. He goes, we went on a date and this is where we went. And all I kept thinking when I was in the store is how much you, Eileen, would love this shop. I just kept thinking about you. So when we got married, I brought you back and there she was. And he was like, I was so embarrassed because I couldn't remember her name or how to introduce her or what to say. But that was my first impression of New Renaissance. And when I walked in there, I said, yes, I'm going to work here someday. And about 5 years later, I was doing readings out of there. So
I've discovered that store probably 30 plus years ago. And when it was smaller, they've grown. And I grew. And then I decided one day, geez, my channels have opened up. I read the Akashic records. I'm certified. I'll just ask if I can be one of the readers. It was a 3-year initiation.
Mm-hmm.
The waiting list was so long.
Yeah. I remember I was making potions there first, and I would just sit with a display selling my potions. And eventually I worked my way into reading there. So yeah, it took me a little while too, but yeah. So I'm excited to have the book signing there. That was my dream once I started writing the book, was to have a book signing there. So,
That's a wonderful, that's like full circle.
yeah.
Instead of buying books, now you can sell yours.
Yeah. But I still buy when I go in there.
Well, right. Yeah. Well, I know that you've got something else you need to tend to. And I just want to thank you so much, Aylin, for coming on the show tonight and for letting me and us, everybody who's going to be watching in the future, know about this new book. And I'm glad to hear that it's already released. I don't get out much. My voice is the last, I think, to recover from COVID, which I got somewhere around, it was detected about the 3rd or 4th of November. So just before the release of your book. And my doctors say I am a long COVID. Never heard of that before. So I'm still not getting out much. So I may call up to New Renaissance and say, what's it? I'm like Andrew.
Andrew,
Andrew, the book guy at New Renaissance. Andrew, do you have that book in? And they probably do, because they know you're going to be there on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I'm bringing a bunch too. So I will have, and I'll be signing copies that they'll keep in the store after I leave. So there'll be signed copies there for a while also. And so I also wanted to say that I have a line of teas and sprays, potions, and oil potions, and you can buy them at New Renaissance or the Raven's Wing here in Portland. They both carry the teas and the sprays, or on my website. So
what's the name of the other store?
The Raven's Wing. It's in Selwood. So
and I know where Selwood is.
Yeah, Selwood. Yeah, so it's a great little shop too. And I did do a book signing there last month, and they have a bunch of my sprays and stuff too. So New Renaissance has them, and online, or the Raven's Wing if you're local. But yeah.
And there's your website, byaylin.com, and your Instagram, but probably they need to go to your website to check out your oils and potions.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to getting a copy of that book. And,
well, thanks so much for having me, Terry. I really appreciate the invite.
Oh, it's what I love doing, because, I get excited listening to all the different people that I know a little bit about. And then here it's like, wow, you've written a book, and I pick up 3 or 4 or 5 different insights. And then the community gets to know you, and people that we may never meet get to know about you and your book. So
that's exciting. Yeah,
it is. I love it. Every week.
It's so much fun.
Thank you very much. And I probably won't be out the store on the 10th. If I do, I'll be wearing a mask, because flu season, my wife just told me, it's on the uptick. And boy, I just don't. Yes. I don't want to do that.
We don't need it, Terry.
Nope. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful the rest of your life, year by year.
Thank you.
And go back to that book if you don't have it already, and learn about how to pilot your life, how to know what's coming. Look backwards if you want to. If you're in the Portland metropolitan area, Saturday, December the 10th, go to New Renaissance Bookstore. It's something like 1138 Northwest 23rd, Portland, Oregon. It's New Renaissance. And so if you misspell it online, online will correct your spelling. Did you mean such and so? And they're they're open from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Every day except I think Wednesday. And so they'll certainly be open Saturday. And until next week, I thank you for checking in, no matter what week it is, whenever you're watching. And until then, this is Who's Your Neighbor? And I'm Terry McGill.